The ship floated in silence, lost in the endless dark of space. For centuries it had drifted, broken and forgotten. Its once bright walls were covered in dust and cracks. No human voices echoed inside anymore. No children laughed. No footsteps moved through the halls. Only machines hummed softly, keeping a secret deep inside the frozen chambers. Through the ruined corridors walked a figure. She was not human. Her skin gave off a faint silver glow in the dim light. Her eyes were large, bright with curiosity and a little sadness. She moved carefully, her long fingers brushing over the walls as if reading the ship's story through touch. Her name was Eris, an alien girl of a young age by her people's measure. Unlike her elders who feared these ruins, she often came here. She wanted to learn about the beings who built this place, the species called humans. Stories whispered in her city said humans were dangerous, proud, and violent. But Eris did not believe only in fear. She believed there must have been more, something deeper that made humanity special. That day, as she explored further than before, her eyes caught a faint glow from a sealed chamber. The heavy doors were half open, struggling against age and rust. Inside, mist floated in the air, curling around a large glass capsule. Eris stepped closer, her heart racing. It was not just a machine. Inside lay a man. His body was still pale, frozen in time. Tubes connected him to strange human technology. His chest rose and fell so faintly that Eris at first thought it was only her imagination. But no, it was real. He was alive, trapped in an endless sleep. Eris gasped. For years she had been told humans were gone forever. Yet here he was, the last of them, a survivor, a ghost from the past. She leaned closer to the glass, staring at his face. His features were sharp, strong, but peaceful. She felt a strange pull in her chest, something her people rarely felt. A connection, curiosity mixed with warmth she could not name. Her fingers brushed the panel beside the pod. Symbols flashed on the screen, old human language. Eris had studied some of it in secret. She understood just enough to know what it said. Cryogenic stasis, active, subject status, alive. Warning, do not revive. She stepped back, her mind racing. Her elders would never allow this. They believed reviving a human was too dangerous. They would order her to leave him here, forgotten, until the end of time. But Eris could not. Something deep inside her told her this man did not deserve eternal silence. The hum of the machines grew louder, as if the ship itself was whispering to her. Wake him. Her hands trembled as she touched the panel again. Lights flickered, codes scrolled, and alarms flashed faintly in red. The capsule began to hiss. The frozen mist thickened, filling the chamber. Eris's heart pounded in her chest. There was no turning back now. With a final hiss, the glass slid open. Cold air poured out, wrapping around her like icy hands. The man inside stirred. His fingers twitched, his chest rose sharply. Eris stepped back in awe as his eyes slowly opened. They were deep, tired eyes, filled with confusion and pain. For the first time in centuries, the last man of humanity breathed freely. He gasped, coughing as he tried to sit up. His gaze darted around the strange chamber until it landed on Eris. His body froze. His lips parted, struggling to form words. Finally, a hoarse whisper escaped him. Where is everyone? The sound of his voice made Eris shiver. It was the first human voice she had ever heard, and it carried the weight of a lost world. She wanted to answer, but no words came. At first, she could only stare back, her silver eyes wide, her heart racing. He tried to stand but stumbled, weak from his long sleep. Instinctively, Eris reached out and caught his arm. He flinched at her touch, his gaze dropping to her glowing skin. Fear crossed his face. You're not human, he said in disbelief. No, Eris replied softly, her voice almost shaking. I am not, but I saved you. The man's breath quickened, his mind spun with questions, grief, and dread. His eyes searched the chamber again, desperate for familiar faces, for signs of life. But there was nothing, only ruins, And this strange girl before him. Aris spoke again, more firmly now. You are the last. Humanity is gone. The words cut through him like a blade. His face twisted with pain. His knees buckled and he sank to the floor, hands covering his face. A heavy silence filled the chamber, broken only by his ragged breaths. Aris watched him, unsure what to do. She had thought reviving him would bring answers, maybe hope. Instead, she had awakened a storm of grief. But she could not leave him like this. She knelt beside him, her voice quiet but steady. You are not alone, she whispered. Not anymore. And the man slowly lowered his hands, his eyes red with tears met hers. For a long moment they simply stared at each other, two beings from different worlds bound by fate. And though neither knew what the future would bring, one truth was clear. The story of humanity was not over. Not yet. The man sat in silence, leaning against the cold wall of the chamber. His breath came uneven, his body weak after so many years of frozen sleep. His eyes, though heavy with grief, stayed locked on the alien girl before him. He studied her glowing skin, her silver eyes, the strange way her hair seemed to shimmer like threads of light. She was not human, yet there was something gentle in her face, something that kept him from pushing her away, even though fear and anger burned inside him. Aris lowered her gaze, unsure what to say. She had broken the law of her people by reviving him. If the council found out, she would face punishment. Yet, as she looked at his tired face, she felt no regret. What is your name? She asked softly. The man hesitated as if the word itself was painful. Finally he spoke, his voice rough and low. Elias. The sound of his name filled the chamber, echoing against the metal walls. For centuries, no one had spoken it. Now, it lived again. I am Aris, the girl said, placing her hand on her chest in the way her people introduced themselves. Elias did not respond. His eyes wandered across the room, over the broken screens and dead machines. Memories stirred in him, fragments of a past world, Earth's blue skies, the warmth of sunlight, the voices of friends and family. They were gone now. All gone. Finally, he looked back at Aris. Why did you wake me? His tone was sharp, almost accusing. Aris swallowed hard. She wanted to tell the truth, but fear pulled at her words. Still, she spoke with honesty. Because I could not leave you in the dark. You are the last of your kind. If I had walked away, you would never open your eyes again. Her words struck him. Elias clenched his fists, his body shaking. The last? No. There must be others. There were thousands of us on the ship. My family, my people, where are they? Aris lowered her head. They are gone. The stasis systems failed long ago. You are the only one the machines kept alive. Silence fell. Elias's face hardened, and his voice broke with rage. You should have let me sleep. What is the point of waking into a world where my people are dust? Aris flinched at his words but did not move away. She understood his pain, even if she had never known such loss. Her people lived long, calm lives, untouched by war or deep emotion. But Elias burned with both grief and anger. To her it was frightening and fascinating. She spoke softly, almost pleading. Because your story is not finished. Maybe your people are gone, but you are here. That means something. Elias laughed bitterly, his voice echoing through the chamber. What meaning is there in being a relic? A ghost in a world that is no longer mine? Aris reached out, her glowing hand hovering near his arm but not touching. Maybe there is more than just loss. You are not alone. Not anymore. For a moment, Elias stared at her hand, then at her eyes. Something in her voice calmed the storm inside him. He turned his face away, ashamed of the tears he could not hold back. Aris rose to her feet. Come with me, she said. You cannot stay here. This place will only remind you of sorrow. I will show you my world." Elias did not move at first. His body felt heavy, his heart heavier. But deep down, curiosity flickered. If humanity was truly gone, then what remained? What had become of the universe while he slept? Slowly, painfully, he pushed himself up. His legs trembled, unused for centuries. Eris stepped forward, steadying him with surprising strength for her small frame. He wanted to resist, to push her away, but his body betrayed him. For now, he needed her. Together they left the chamber. The halls of the ship stretched endlessly, filled with shadows and silence. Elias felt each step like a farewell to the ghosts of his people. When they reached the outer hatch, Eris pressed her hand against a panel. The doors groaned and opened with a blast of light. Elias blinked, his eyes burning at the sudden brightness. Before him spread a sky unlike any he remembered. It shimmered with two suns, one golden, the other pale blue. The horizon glowed with strange plants, their leaves tall and radiant, bending toward the light. In the distance rose the spires of a city, alien, curved, glowing softly like crystal, towers. Elias froze, his breath caught in his chest. This was not Earth. This was not even close. "Welcome," Eris said gently. "This is my home. My people live here. You are safe, safe." The word felt empty to him. He did not feel safe. He felt small, lost and broken. Yet as he looked at the glowing towers, he could not deny a spark of wonder. This world was alive, strange, but alive. Eris glanced at him, studying his face. "They will not welcome you easily," she admitted. "To them you are dangerous, a shadow of a violent race. But I believe there is more to you." Elias turned his gaze to her. In her silver eyes, he saw no fear, only quiet determination. For the first time since waking, he felt something other than grief. It was not hope, not yet. But it was a beginning. His voice was low, almost a whisper. "Show me." Eris nodded, her lips curving into the faintest smile. Together, they stepped forward into the alien light. And so began the story of a man with no people, and the girl who refused to let him be forgotten. The twin suns hung above the sky, painting the world in gold and pale blue light. Elias stood at the edge of the alien city, his body weak, but his eyes wide. He had never seen such a place. The towers rose high, twisting like living crystals. The air carried a faint hum, as if the city itself breathed. Strange creatures with wings like glass drifted between the glowing plants, their voices soft, almost like songs. To Elias it was beautiful but also terrifying. It was not Earth. Nothing about it felt human. Eris walked beside him, her steps light on the smooth ground. She looked calm, but inside her heart raced. Bringing Elias here was dangerous. Her people feared humans. If the council saw him now, they might order him destroyed. But she could not hide him forever. He had to see this world, even if it meant risk. Elias stumbled slightly, still not used to walking after centuries of stasis. Eris steadied him with her glowing hand. He pulled away, pride flaring, but his legs trembled. He hated feeling weak in front of her. "You should rest," Eris said gently. "No," Elias muttered. His voice was sharp, but his eyes remained fixed on the alien city. "I need to know where I am." Eris nodded, guiding him closer. As they entered the city, people turned to stare. Their silver eyes widened. Their whispers filled the air. Elias felt the weight of 100 gazes pressing down on him. He was the outsider, the stranger, the last ghost of a vanished species. Children pointed at him with curiosity. Elders stepped back in fear. Some placed their hands on their chests, a sign of warning. Elias clenched his fists, anger burning inside. He was used to being part of a people, not a monster on display. One alien elder approached. His skin glowed, brighter than the others, his robe lined with threads of light. His voice was calm but cold. Aris, he said, ignoring Elias at first. What have you done? Aris lowered her head respectfully. Elder Thalos, I found him. The machines kept him alive. I could not leave him there. The elder's eyes turned to Elias, studying him with suspicion. A human. He spoke the word like poison. Your kind destroyed itself. Fire, war, greed. You are the shadow of a dying star. Why bring this danger into our city? Elias bristled, his jaw tightening. He wanted to shout, to defend his people, but grief crushed his words. Deep down, he knew there was truth in the elder's judgment. Humanity had fallen. They had left him nothing but silence. Still, he found his voice. I didn't ask to be saved, he said harshly. If I am such a danger, then end me now. The crowd gasped at his defiance. Aris's eyes widened in alarm. She stepped in front of him, her voice firm. No, he deserves a chance. He is not war. He is not greed. He is just a man. Elder Thalos narrowed his eyes. And what do you see? In this man, child? Aris's voice trembled, but she did not look away. I see more than fear. I see someone who has suffered yet still breathes. That means there is still something worth saving. The elder was silent for a long moment. Then he gestured sharply. Take him to the outer quarters. He is not to walk freely among us. The council will decide his fate. 2 guards stepped forward. Their armor glowed faintly, and their eyes burned with distrust. Elias tensed, ready to resist, but Aris touched. His arm, please, she whispered. Do not fight, not now. Her voice calmed him, though his pride ached. Slowly, he allowed the guards to lead him through winding paths, past shimmering towers until they reached a quiet dwelling at the city's edge. The walls were smooth and curved, glowing faintly with inner light. Inside, the room was empty, but clean, with soft surfaces that seemed to shape themselves when touched. The guards left without a word, sealing the door behind them. Elias sank onto a low bench, his hands covering his face. The silence pressed heavy. He felt trapped, judged, unwanted. Aris stood nearby, her expression troubled. I am sorry. I thought they would see what I see. Elias let out a bitter laugh. What do you see, Aris? A broken man from a dead world, that's all I am. She stepped closer, her voice quiet but steady. I see more. I see someone who carries fire inside. My people fear fire because it destroys. But fire also gives light, warmth, life. Maybe that is what humanity truly was. Elias looked up at her, meeting her silver gaze. For a moment, the anger inside him softened. He wanted to believe her words. He wanted to believe he was more than just the last shadow of his kind, but doubt still lingered. And if your council decides I'm too dangerous? He asked. Aris's lips pressed together, her eyes shining with determination. Then I will stand for you, even if I stand alone. The words struck him harder than any judgment. She barely knew him, yet she risked everything. Why? He had no answer. Outside, the city hummed with strange life, its people whispering about the human among them. Inside, Elias sat in silence, torn between despair and a spark of something unfamiliar, something that felt almost like hope. The stranger had entered their world, and nothing would ever be the same again. Night fell over the alien city. 2 moons rose in the sky, one silver, one pale green, bathing the towers in a soft glow. Inside the outer dwelling, Elias lay awake on the smooth bench that shaped itself to his body. He could not rest. His mind was full of ghosts, faces of his people, voices from a world long gone. Every breath felt heavy, like carrying the weight of all humanity on his shoulders. The walls hummed faintly, alive with strange alien energy. Elias hated the silence. It was not the silence of peace, but the silence of being forgotten. The door slid open without warning. He sat up quickly, fists clenched. Aris stepped inside, moving quietly like a shadow. You should not be here, Elias said, his voice low. Your people already hate me enough. Eris ignored his warning. She held a small crystal in her hands, glowing faintly blue. "Come," she whispered. "I want to show you something." Elias hesitated. He wanted to tell her to leave him, alone, to stop pretending he mattered. But something in her eyes, steady, determined, pulled him to his feet. Against his own doubt, he followed. They moved through the silent streets, keeping to the shadows. Eris led him down hidden paths beneath the city, into tunnels where the glow of the towers faded. At last, she pressed her crystal into a panel, and a door slid open. Inside was a chamber unlike any Elias had seen since waking. The walls were filled with human symbols, screens, books, shattered machines, artifacts from his people. His breath caught in his throat. This is ours." Eris nodded. "We recovered what we could from the ruins of your ships. The Council keeps it hidden, fearing the memory of your kind. But I wanted you to see." Elias stepped forward, his hands trembling as he touched a broken screen. Faded images flickered to life. Blue oceans, green forests, children laughing, beneath a wide sky. His heart ached at the sight. He picked up a cracked photograph sealed in glass. A family smiled back at him, frozen in time. He pressed it to his chest, his throat tight. "Earth," he whispered, his voice breaking. "My home." Eris watched him silently. She had seen these images before, but they meant little to her people. To Elias, they were everything. Slowly, she spoke. "What was it like? Your world?" Elias closed his eyes. It was alive. The air smelled of rain and soil. The wind carried the voices of trees and oceans. It was flawed, yes, but it was ours. His voice cracked, and he turned away. "And now it's gone. My people are gone. What's the point of showing me this? To remind me of what I lost?" Eris shook her head. "No. To remind you of what still lives inside you." Elias frowned, not understanding. She walked to another console, placing her hand on it. A soft hum filled the room, and music began to play, human music recorded centuries ago. The sound was gentle, full of emotion. To her people it was strange, noise, but to Elias it was memory. He sank to his knees, tears in his eyes. "I never thought I'd hear this again." Eris knelt beside him. "Your people felt things my people cannot. Love, sorrow, joy. We do not live with such fire. That is why the Council fears you. They fear what they cannot control." Elias wiped his eyes with the back of his hand. "And you? Do you fear me too?" Eris looked into his eyes. "No, I want to understand you." For a long moment, silence stretched between them. Elias felt her sincerity, and for the first time since waking, he did not feel like a relic. He felt like a man. He rose slowly and touched the console himself. Images shifted. Wars, flames, human armies fighting each other. His chest tightened. "This is what your Council sees," he said bitterly. "Destruction. Death. Maybe they are right to fear me." Eris placed her hand over his, stopping the images. Her voice was soft but firm. "No, they see only half the story. You cannot know love without loss. You cannot know peace without fire. That is what makes you different. That is what I want to learn." Elias stared at her, searching her face. She was alien, yet in that moment she seemed closer to him than anyone had in centuries. "Why me?" he asked. "Why risk so much for a broken man?" Eris smiled faintly, though sadness lingered in her eyes. "Because maybe saving you will save something in me too." The music faded into silence. The chamber seemed warmer, alive with quiet emotion. Elias felt something stir in his chest, something he thought he had lost forever. Hope. But before he could speak, the sound of heavy footsteps echoed in the tunnels. Eris's eyes widened. She grabbed his arm. "They've found us." The door shook as guards pounded against it. Voices shouted commands in the alien tongue. Elias felt his heart race. He was not ready for another fight, another cage. Aris gripped his hand tightly, her silver eyes blazing. "Trust me," she whispered. "I will not let them take you." The door began to crack. The secret they shared was no longer safe. And as the chamber filled with tension, Elias realized that this girl, this alien who believed in him, was the only reason he still lived. The guards stormed the hidden chamber, their glowing armor lighting up the dark. Elias stood ready to fight, his fists clenched, his chest burning with defiance. He had nothing, no weapon, no allies, but he would not be taken like an animal. Eris stepped in front of him, her arms spread wide. "Stop," she shouted. "He is under my protection." The guards hesitated. Their orders were clear: capture the human. But Eris was the daughter of a respected scholar, and her courage shocked them. Still, they grabbed Elias by the arms. His muscles strained, but his strength after centuries of stasis was no match for theirs. "Eris!" Elias shouted as they dragged him toward the door. "I will find you," she called back, her voice breaking. The chamber closed, leaving her. Behind Elias was locked in the outer quarters again. The room glowed faintly, too clean, too quiet. He paced the floor, fury and despair twisting inside him. He hated being caged. He hated feeling powerless. He hated needing Aris to save him. Hours passed before the door slid open. Eris entered, her silver glow dimmer than usual as if fear weighed her down. "They watched you," she whispered. "They do not trust me anymore." Elias turned on her, anger flashing. "Then why keep coming back? Why risk yourself for me?" Her lips trembled, but her eyes stayed steady. "Because you matter." He laughed bitterly. "I'm one man. My people are dead. What can I matter to you?" She stepped closer, her voice soft. "Because you are more alive than all of them. When you feel sorrow, it shakes the air. When you laugh, it warms the room. My people do not live like this. We are calm, quiet, empty. But you carry fire. I want to understand that fire." Elias froze. No one had ever spoken of his grief, his anger, his stubborn will as something worth saving. To his people he had often been reckless, too quick to fight, too bold to feel. Yet to Eris, those same flaws were proof of life. Slowly, his anger cooled. He sank onto the bench, burying his face in his hands. "I don't know how to be anything else," he whispered. Aris sat beside him, careful but close. "Then show me," she said. "Teach me what it means to feel like a human." The days that followed were unlike anything Elias expected. Aris visited often, sometimes sneaking past the guards, sometimes under the excuse of studying him for the council. She asked endless questions. What was laughter? Why did humans cry? What did it mean to hope? Elias struggled to explain, but sometimes words failed. So he showed her. One evening he told her an old human joke. His voice was dry, uncertain, but when she tilted her head in confusion, he laughed at her seriousness. The sound startled him. It had been centuries since he laughed. Eris smiled, not because she understood the joke, but because she liked the sound of his joy. Another time, she found him staring at the sky. "What are you thinking?" she asked. "About the stars," he said. "On Earth, we looked at them and dreamed. We believed there was more out there. We believed we could belong among them." Eris followed his gaze. "And now you do. You belong here." Her words touched him, though he could not admit it. Their bond grew stronger, but so did the tension in the city. Whispers spread like wildfire. The human was dangerous. The human was corrupting their young. Some said Eris herself was corrupted. One night, Elias woke to find her waiting outside his room, eyes bright with urgency. "They want to send you back to stasis," she whispered. "The council votes soon. If they decide, you will sleep again, and this time maybe forever." Elias felt his chest tighten. He had just begun to breathe again, to feel again. He could not return to silence. "What can we do?" he asked. "Eris," bit her lip. I don't know. But I won't let them erase you. Her hand brushed his, hesitant but lingering. Elias looked down at her glowing fingers against his rough skin. For the first time, he did not pull away. The touch was simple, but it held a promise. You don't even know me, he said softly. Eris shook her head. I know enough. You are human, and that is worth something. The nights grew longer. Aris and Elias spent hours in secret, sharing stories, songs, and quiet moments. He told her about rain on the rooftops of his city, about the warmth of fire, on a winter night, about the feeling of holding someone you love. She listened with wide eyes, drinking in every word as if they were treasures. In return, she showed him hidden corners of her world, the glowing gardens where plants sang when touched, the crystal lakes that reflected the twin suns, the silent halls of knowledge where her people stored their history. Elias began to see her not just as an alien, but as something more. She was his anchor in this strange world, the one who kept him from drowning in despair, yet danger never left. Every time a guard's shadow passed their door, every time a whisper echoed in the streets, Elias knew their bond was fragile. The council's decision loomed closer. One evening, as they sat beneath the moons, Aris asked a question that made his heart stop. Elias, what does it mean to love? He stared at her, caught off guard. Her silver eyes searched his face with pure innocence. He swallowed hard. Love, it's when someone matters more than yourself, when their pain hurts you and their joy lifts you, when you'd fight the world just to keep them safe. Eris was silent, her gaze soft. Then, maybe I understand more than I thought. Before he could reply, a horn sounded in the distance. The council had called. The decision was near. Eris stood quickly, her expression firm. Stay strong. Whatever happens, I will not let them take your fire. As she left, Elias felt his chest burn. For the first time since waking, he realized he was afraid, not for himself, but for her. Because the more they grew together, the more he understood. If he lost Eris, he would lose the only reason he had left to live. The great hall of the council was alive with light. Tall crystal pillars glowed from within, casting shifting patterns across the floor. The air hummed with low voices. Dozens of elders gathered in a half circle. At the center stood a raised platform, cold, bare, waiting. Elias was led forward by guards. Chains of glowing energy wrapped around his wrists, humming with power. He hated the feel of them, hated being paraded like a criminal before eyes that looked at him as if he were already guilty. Whispers rippled through the hall. The last human. Dangerous. A shadow of war. Elias lifted his head high, refusing to bow. He had lost his people, his world, everything, but he would not lose his pride. Eris walked beside him, though she was not bound. Her silver glow seemed dimmer than usual, but her eyes burned with quiet fire. She would not abandon him. At the far end of the hall, Elder Thalos rose. His robe shimmered like woven starlight, his gaze hard and heavy. When he spoke, his voice carried through the chamber like thunder. Elias of Earth, you are the last of your kind, a race that consumed itself with fire and war. For centuries we have lived in peace while your people destroyed themselves. And now, through the reckless actions of this child, he glanced sharply at Eris, you walk among us again. The question is simple. Should you remain awake? Or should you return to eternal sleep? The crowd murmured in agreement. Some nodded. Some looked fearful. Few showed sympathy. Elias clenched his fists inside the chains. His voice was harsh but steady. If you fear me, then end me. But do not chain me like an animal and call it mercy. Humanity is gone. I am no army, no threat. I am just a man. A hiss of whispers filled the chamber. Some looked shocked at his defiance. Others smirked with contempt. Elder Thalos raised his hand. Words are easy, but history speaks louder. Your kind spread destruction across the stars. Even in your final days, you turned your weapons upon yourselves. Why should we believe you are different?" Elias's jaw tightened. He wanted to shout back, to throw their judgment in their faces. But before he could, Eris stepped forward. "Because he is different," she said, her voice clear and strong. All eyes turned to her. She trembled but did not falter. "I have walked with him. I have seen his grief, his anger, his sorrow. Yes, he burns with emotions we do not understand. But that fire is not only destruction, it is also hope. It is also love. My people cannot feel as he feels, but that does not make him evil. It makes him alive." The hall erupted in noise. Elders muttered, some outraged, others uncertain. A voice called out from the crowd, "And if his fire consumes us, will you risk our peace for this one man?" Eris turned, her silver eyes blazing. "Peace without feeling is not peace, it is emptiness. He is proof that life is more than silence. Humanity may have fallen, but through him, their spirit still breathes." Elias stared at her, stunned. No one had ever spoken for him like this. No one had ever believed in him so completely. His chest tightened, not with grief this time, but with something fierce and bright. Elder Thalos raised his voice again. "You defend him with passion, child, but passion blinds. Would you risk your people's safety for this stranger?" Eris stepped closer to Elias, placing herself between him and the council. Her voice rang clear. "Yes, because without risk, there is no life. Without trust, there is no future. If we turn away from him, we turn away from what we could become." Silence fell. The elders looked at one another, their glowing eyes unreadable. Finally, Elder Thalos lifted a hand. "Enough. The council will decide." The chamber darkened as the elders closed their eyes, linking their thoughts in silent judgment. The air grew heavy as if the whole world held its breath. Elias stood rigid, his heart pounding. He had faced war. He had faced death. But this quiet, waiting judgment was worse than both. He looked at Aris beside him, her face steady, her hand brushing against his as if to remind him he was not alone. Minutes passed like hours. At last, the elder's eyes opened. Thalos spoke. "The council is divided. Some see danger. Some see hope. Until the truth is proven, you will not be returned to stasis. But neither are you free. You will remain under watch, your every step guarded. Any sign of threat, and you will be ended." The hall buzzed with mixed reaction, anger, relief, suspicion. Elias exhaled slowly. It was not freedom, but it was life. For now, that was enough. Eris's shoulders sagged with relief. She glanced at him, her lips curving in the faintest smile, but her eyes warned him. This was only the beginning. As the guards led him away, Elias whispered under his breath, "Meant only for her. You saved me." Eris shook her head. "No, you saved yourself. I only reminded them to see it." But deep inside, Elias knew the truth. Without her, he would already be back in the cold silence of endless sleep. And though the council had delayed their judgment, the weight of suspicion still hung over him like a storm. The trial was over. The war for his future had just begun. The council's judgment had left the city uneasy. Elias was no longer hidden, but he was never free. Guards followed him everywhere, their glowing weapons ready. Whispers filled the streets whenever he passed, some curious, some fearful, some full of hate. Yet beside him, always, was Aris. Her presence steadied him. Without her, he would have drowned in despair. With her, he found reasons to stand tall, even under the weight of suspicion. Days passed in fragile silence. Then one night the city shook. A low rumble trembled through the ground, followed by a deep, distant roar. The skies flickered red as the twin suns dimmed unnaturally. Alarms rang across the crystal towers. The people rushed into the streets, their calm broken by fear. Elias lifted his eyes. Above the horizon, Something moved, vast, dark, alive. A ship, no, a swarm, blotting out the stars. Its shape was jagged, unnatural, like a wound torn in the sky. "What is it?" Elias asked, his voice sharp. Eris's face was pale, her glow dimming. "The ancient enemy," she whispered. "We thought they were gone." The swarm descended, weapons blazing. Beams of energy tore into the outer gardens, shattering crystal spires and sending shockwaves through the ground. Screams filled the air. The guards rushed forward, but their weapons were weak against the storm. Panic spread like fire. Elder Thalos appeared, his robe torn by the chaos. His voice trembled with fury and fear. "They have returned. We are not ready. Our defenses are nothing against them." Elias's chest tightened. He knew that look of despair. He had seen it before, in the final days of humanity when enemies came and hope vanished. But unlike then, he would not stand idle. "You can't fight them with shields alone," Elias said, stepping forward. "You need strategy. You need someone who knows war." Thalos glared at him. "And you would have us trust you? The child of destruction?" Elias stood tall, his voice cutting through the chaos. "Yes, because destruction is not all I carry. My people fought, we planned, we adapted. If you don't let me help, your city will fall." The hall shook again as another blast ripped through the sky. Cries of terror echoed. Even Thalos could not deny the truth. His people were breaking. Aris stepped beside Elias, her voice fierce. "He is not your enemy, he is your only chance." For a moment, silence. Then Thalos gave a sharp nod. "Very well. Show us what you can do, human. If you fail, it will be the end of us all." Elias moved quickly, his mind alive with old instincts. He studied the swarm's formation, their attack patterns, their weaknesses. His voice was sharp, commanding, cutting through fear like a blade. "Divide your forces, don't meet them head-on. Strike at their flanks where their armor bends. Use the towers as cover, not as shields. Make them chase you into narrow paths. Force them into confusion." The alien soldiers hesitated, unused to such orders, but Eris's voice rang out. "Do as he says." They obeyed, and for the first time, the enemy slowed. The swarm stumbled against the traps Elias laid, crashing into narrow canyons of crystal where their numbers meant less. Still, the battle raged, and the city burned. Eris fought beside Elias, her hands glowing with strange energy that formed barriers against enemy fire. Together they moved as one, human fire and alien light. At the height of the fight, a massive shape descended, the enemy's command ship, black and vast, blotting out both moons. Its weapons glowed, ready to end everything. Elias's heart pounded. He had seen such moments before. In the past, humanity had fallen. But this time, he was not alone. He turned to Aris. Her face was pale, her energy fading, but her eyes shone with trust. "Do you believe in me?" he asked. "Yes," she whispered. "Always." He reached for her hand, their fingers locking, human skin against alien glow. Together they sprinted toward the highest tower, where an ancient human weapon, long, hidden in the archives, still rested. Elias had seen it once in the secret chamber, a relic of Earth's last war. They activated it, their combined touch awakening the machine. Energy surged, brighter than the sun's. With a roar, the weapon fired. A beam cut through the sky, striking the enemy ship. Light exploded across the heavens as the swarm shattered, their dark forms scattering like ashes in the wind. The city fell silent. Slowly, voices rose. Not of fear, but of awe. The people stared at the human who had turned despair into victory. In the aftermath, Elias stood among the ruins, his body weary, but his spirit unbroken. The council gathered once more, but this time their eyes were different. Not only fear, but respect. Elder Thalos spoke, his voice softer than before. "Perhaps we were wrong. Perhaps your fire is not only destruction." Elias did not answer. He looked instead at Aris, who stood beside him, her glow brighter now, her hand still holding his. For the first time since waking, he felt something, like belonging. Eris spoke quietly, but her words carried. Maybe humanity is not gone. Maybe it has found a new home. Elias's chest ached at her words, but not from sorrow. From something stronger. Hope. He squeezed her hand gently. Then let's build it together. The twin suns rose again, casting light across the scarred but living city. And for the first time in centuries, the last man of Earth looked toward the dawn, not with grief but with a promise. A new story had begun.